Have you ever laughed at a joke you didn't find funny, just because everyone else was cracking up? Or maybe you nodded in a meeting even though you didn't agree, just to keep things smooth? Yeah, that's social conformity in action. It's the invisible force that makes us blend in, follow the crowd, and sometimes even doubt our own eyes. We all do it. And over the years, psychologists have run some wild experiments to figure out why. So buckle up. Today we're diving into the strange and fascinating science of social conformity, what it reveals about human nature, and why being yourself might be harder than you think. The line test that fooled everyone. Imagine sitting in a room with a few other people. You see two cards, one with a single line and another with three lines labeled A, B, and C. Your task? Pick which line matches the first one. Simple enough, right? But here's the twist. Everyone else in the room, except you, is an actor, and they've been told to pick the wrong answer on purpose. This was psychologist Solomon Asch's conformity experiment from the 1950s. When the actors confidently chose the wrong line, most people went along with them, even though the right answer was obvious. 75% of participants conformed at least once. On average, people went along with the group about a third of the time. Some said they didn't want to stand out. Others actually started doubting their own judgment. The takeaway? Even when our eyes see the truth, our brains sometimes choose the comfort of the crowd. When authority says, keep going. If that sounds like mild peer pressure, the next one's a shocker, literally. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram wanted to see how far people would go when following orders. Participants were told to play the role of a teacher, delivering electric shocks to a learner, another person in the next room, whenever they answered a question wrong. The shocks weren't real, but the participants didn't know that. The learner screamed, begged, and even went silent when the voltage got high. Meanwhile, a man in a lab coat calmly said, "The experiment requires that you continue." And people did. 65% went all the way to 450 volts, a level labeled danger, severe shock. Why? Because someone in authority told them to. Milgram discovered that obedience is deeply wired into us. It's not about cruelty. It's about trust, fear of conflict, and the power of authority. Prison that got too real. A few years later, psychologist Philip Zimbardo at Stanford University wanted to explore how people behave when given power or submission. He turned a basement into a fake prison. Volunteers were randomly assigned to be either guards or prisoners. The study was supposed to last 2 weeks. It was shut down after 6 days. The guards quickly became abusive, enforcing cruel punishments and humiliating prisoners. The prisoners, meanwhile, became anxious, submissive, and emotionally drained. Zimbardo realized people don't just act out roles, they become them. Situations and expectations can override personality and ethics. The Stanford Prison Experiment remains one of psychology's most famous and controversial lessons about how environment shapes behavior. Why people freeze instead of helping. In 1964, a woman named Kitty Genovese lost her life in New York City. Early reports claimed dozens of people witnessed it and did nothing. The story was exaggerated, but it inspired a powerful question. Why do people freeze when others are around? Psychologists Bibb Latané and John Darley studied this and discovered the bystander effect. In one experiment, participants were alone in a room, listening through an intercom when someone pretended to have a seizure. When people thought they were the only witness, 85% rushed to help. But when they believed others could hear it too, only 31% did. The more people around, the less likely anyone is to act. Everyone assumes someone else will step up. It's not that people don't care. It's that we take cues from others. If nobody moves, we freeze too. The summer camp that turned into a war. In the 1950s, psychologist Muzafer Sharif ran a clever summer camp study called the Robbers Cave Experiment. 2 groups of boys arrived at that camp, not knowing the other existed. Each group bonded, named themselves, and built strong team identities. Then Sharif introduced competitions, baseball games, tug of war, capture the flag. The results? Chaos. Name-calling, cabin raids, even physical fights. But when the groups had to work together to fix problems, like repairing a broken water pipe or pulling a stuck truck, cooperation replaced hostility. Sharif showed how easily humans form us versus them thinking, and how shared goals can turn enemies into allies. Conformity in everyday life. Now, let's bring it back to us. Conformity isn't just a lab experiment, it's part of daily life. Think about fashion. One year, ripped jeans are cool. The next year, they're out. Or social media, where dances, slang, and trends spread like wildfire. Even at work, people often mirror their boss's tone, agree with the group, or stay silent to avoid conflict. This instinct runs deep in our history. Thousands of years ago, survival depended on belonging to a group. Standing out could mean danger. And today, our brains still reward belonging. When we're accepted, we get a hit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. When we're rejected, brain scans show pain in the same areas as physical injury. So conformity isn't just social, it's biological. The good, the bad, and the useful. Conformity isn't always negative. It keeps society organized. We need people to follow rules, drive on the same side of the road, and agree on basic manners. But blind conformity? That's where trouble starts. Too much can lead to mob mentality, prejudice, or obeying harmful orders without question. The secret is mindful conformity, knowing when to go along and when to stand firm. It's like seasoning. A little adds flavor. Too much ruins the dish. Why it still happens today. Modern neuroscience gives us a peek inside the brain. When someone disagrees with a group, brain scans show a spike in areas linked to conflict and discomfort. Our brains actually hurt when we stand out. And in the digital age, conformity is everywhere, powered by algorithms. Likes, shares, and follows are the new badges of belonging. The more we see something online, the more normal it feels. Before long, we're not thinking for ourselves. We're just syncing with the feed. So the next time you find yourself agreeing with a viral opinion, ask, do I actually believe this, or am I just staying in the algorithm's good graces? What these experiments teach us. Let's sum it up. Asch, we follow group opinions, even when they're wrong. Milgram, people obey authority, even against their morals. Zimbardo, roles can reshape who we are. Latney and Darley, more witnesses mean less action. Sheriff, group identity can divide us or unite us. Together, these experiments reveal how powerful social influence really is. Independent thinking takes courage and awareness. How to stay true without being a rebel. So if conformity is built into us, how can we stay true to ourselves without turning into outcasts? Here's how. Pause before agreeing. Ask if your choice feels right or just comfortable. Know your values. When you're clear on what you stand for, you're harder to sway. Listen to different opinions. Variety keeps your thinking sharp. Respect disagreement. It's not a threat, it's a mirror. And when pressure builds, use humor. A little laughter can break group tension. The goal isn't to be stubborn, it's to be thoughtful. To choose when to blend in and when to stand out. Even scientists conform. Here's a funny twist. Even the scientists studying conformity weren't immune to it. After Asch and Milgram became famous, researchers around the world kept repeating their experiments because, well, that's what everyone else was doing. Even science has trends. Even scientists follow the herd sometimes. Maybe that's the ultimate proof that conformity really is universal. The courage to think for yourself. Conformity is like gravity. You can't see it, but it's always there, pulling us toward the group. It keeps life orderly, but it can also drag us into bad decisions if we stop questioning. The classic studies by Asch, Milgram, Zimbardo, Latney, Darley, and Sheriff show how our need to belong can shape or misshape our behavior. But once we see that force, we can use it wisely. Awareness gives us a choice. Follow when it makes sense, or take a stand when it matters. Every big leap in history, from civil rights to scientific revolutions, began with someone who didn't conform. So next time you feel pressure to follow the crowd, remember, being yourself might just be the bravest act of all.